Find a comfortable position now, whether you're lying down or curled up somewhere warm. Let your body settle into the surface beneath you and allow your eyes to gently close. Take a slow breath in and let it go. In and out. There's nowhere you need to be right now. Nothing you need to do. This moment belongs only to you. Let your shoulders soften. Feel the weight of the day beginning to lift from your jaw, from your hands, from the space behind your eyes. With each breath, you're drifting a little further from the noise of the world. Breathe in and breathe out. Imagine for a moment that the sky above you is deep and dark and full of stars. Ancient stars, older than any map or name, quietly watching over a world that has been turning for 10,000 years. You are safe here. You are held. And tonight, you are invited to travel. Welcome to Moonlit Dynasty, a collection of ancient stories from the heart of China. Tales of gods and heroes, of love and sacrifice, of the endless turning of the seasons. Stories that have been whispered for generations, carried by the wind across mountains and rivers, from the mouths of grandmothers to the ears of sleeping children. If these stories carry you gently to sleep, a subscription means the world to us and ensures the next story finds its way to you. Tonight, let one of those stories find you. Settle in, close your eyes, and let the old world carry you gently into the dark and into sleep. The cave was quiet that morning, the way only mountain caves can be quiet. A quiet that has weight to it, that has been gathering for days, for weeks, settling into the stone like dust. Outside, the spring was very new. The plum trees on the lower slopes had only just begun to think about blossoming. A thin mist hung over the valley below, soft as breath on glass. Inside the cave, on a low pedestal of dark wood, the lotus had been growing for a long time. It had grown in silence. It had grown in the slow, patient rhythm that lotuses keep, which is the rhythm of deep water and old roots and things that know how to wait. Its petals were pink at the edges and pale gold at the heart. Layered upon layered, hundreds of them, folded inward like a held breath. Taiyi Zhenren had watched it grow. He had said nothing for many weeks. He had only watched. And then, on this quiet morning, with the mist still soft and the mountain still asleep, the lotus opened. It did not open quickly. It opened the way a sunrise opens, petal by petal, light by light, with the inevitability of something that was always going to happen. The outer petals unfolded first, curling back slowly, releasing a fragrance that was sweet and clean and somehow familiar, the way a name you have not heard in years is familiar. Then the inner petals, then the innermost. And inside, sitting cross-legged at the very heart of the flower, was a small boy. He had a round face and two small top knots of black hair on either side of his head. His skin was warm and luminous, as though there were a soft lamp lit just beneath the surface of it. His eyes, when they opened, were dark and bright and entirely his own. He looked around. He blinked. He yawned, a wide, unself-conscious yawn. The yawn of someone who has just woken up from the deepest nap of his life. And then he laughed. It was not a loud laugh. It was not a triumphant laugh. It was the small, delighted laugh of a child who has just discovered that his fingers still work, that his toes still wiggle, that the world is still here and he is still in it. He flexed his hands. He examined them with great seriousness. He poked one cheek with one finger, as if checking that the cheek was real. It was real. He was real. Taiyi Zhenren stood very still by the cave wall. He had not moved in some hours. There were tears on his face, though his expression had not changed. He was a master of many things, and one of the things he had mastered was the art of not interrupting a miracle while it was happening. The boy looked up. He saw his teacher. His face split into a grin so wide it seemed it might not fit on such a small face. "Master," he said. His voice was clear and bright as a bell. "I'm hungry." Taiyi Zhenren laughed, a startled, helpless laugh that came up out of him like water from a long-stopped well. He laughed until his shoulders shook. He laughed until he had to wipe his eyes. "Of course you are," he said. "Of course you are." The boy stood up. The petals of the lotus fell away from him gently, drifting down around his bare feet like soft pink snow. He stepped down from the pedestal onto the stone floor of the cave. He stretched. He rolled his shoulders. He bent down and touched his toes, just to see if he still could. He could. Everything still worked. Everything was still him. He was changed. He could feel that. Some quiet new lightness in his bones. Some inner brightness where flesh used to be. And he was unchanged. He was Nezha. He'd come back. He looked at Taiyi Zhenren. Taiyi Zhenren looked at him. Neither of them spoke. There was nothing yet that needed to be said. Outside, the mountain mist began, very slowly, to lift. Taiyi Zhenren turned to a low chest at the side of the cave. It was made of plain wood, unadorned, the kind of chest a woodcutter might own. He had kept it there for a long time. He had not opened it in all the weeks of the lotus's growing. He had not needed to. He had known what was inside, and he had known when it would be needed. And now the time had come. He lifted the lid. The boy padded over on bare feet, curious as a cat. He peered inside. The red silk lay on top, a long, long ribbon of it, soft as river water, deep as a heart's blood. It seemed to move slightly, even in the still air of the cave, as though it were breathing, as though it had been waiting a long time and was glad to be remembered. Nezha reached in and lifted it. The moment his fingers closed around it, the silk uncurled itself like a living thing and wound up his arms, looping around his wrists, settling there as easily as if it had never left. The ends trailed down behind him, longer than he was tall, swaying gently. He laughed again, the same small, delighted laugh. "It remembers me," he said. "It always did," Taiyi Zhenren said. Beneath the silk was the universe ring, a perfect golden hoop, polished smooth, humming very faintly with the warm, low hum of contained power. Nezha lifted it. It was lighter than he remembered, or perhaps he was stronger. He spun it once on his finger. It settled at his hip, as though it had grown there. Beneath the ring were the windfire wheels, 2 flat golden discs ringed with painted flame. He set them on the stone floor. They glowed softly, awakening. He stepped onto them. His feet found their places the way feet find a familiar path, home in the dark. The wheels lifted him gently, a hand's breadth off the ground, then settled again. They knew him. They had been waiting for him. Last of all, at the bottom of the chest, was the fire-tipped spear. It was long and slender, the shaft dark wood polished by use, the tip a curl of bright red flame that burned without consuming. Nezha lifted it carefully. He gave it one small test twirl. The flame trailed in the air like a comma of light. He stood there, fully arrayed, red silk flowing from his wrists, golden ring at his hip, flaming wheels beneath his feet, spear in his hand, and he looked exactly like himself. Exactly. Down to the tilt of his chin, the brightness in his eyes, the small, impatient energy in his shoulders. Taiyi Zhenren considered him for a long moment. They fit, the master said. They were always going to, Nezha said. Yes, Taiyi Zhenren nodded slowly. I suppose they were. He gestured toward the cave mouth. Nezha turned. Beyond the opening, the mist had thinned. The mountain showed itself, green and grey and gold in the new morning sun. The pine trees soft with dew. The far valley opening like a slow folding fan. A bird was singing somewhere. Just one bird. Just one song. Nezha stepped to the threshold. He paused there, one foot still inside the cave, one foot at the edge of the world. He had died here, in a way. He had come back here, in a way. The mountain had held him the whole time, patient as mountains always are, and now the mountain was giving him back to himself. He stepped out. The morning air touched his face. It was cool and bright and full of pine. He breathed it in. He breathed it in again. The wind fire. Wheels carried him a little way along the path, then stopped, as if asking where he wanted to go. He laughed, and the laugh rolled out across the valley. And somewhere very far below, a single plum blossom opened, 2 days early, just to listen. He was glad to be back. Word travels in the mountains the way water travels. Slowly at first, finding its path, then faster, then everywhere at once. A woodcutter saw the boy on the flaming wheels and dropped his axe. He told his wife. His wife told the neighbor who came to borrow salt. The neighbor told the village headman. The village headman told the merchant, who came through with bolts of cloth. The merchant told the innkeeper in the next town, who told a traveling monk, who told a passing official, who told, eventually, a captain of the guard at Chentang Pass. The captain of the guard went very pale. He said nothing for a long time. Then he asked, "Are you sure?" "A small boy," the official said. 2 top knots, red silk, flaming wheels under his feet, spinning a golden ring on his finger as if it were a toy. People say he came out of a lotus on Kanyuan Mountain. People say his master is Taiyi Zhenren. People say, "Yes," the captain said. "I see." He went to find his commander. His commander was Li Jing, General Li Jing, master of Chentang Pass, father of 3 sons, 2 of whom were still living, 1 of whom had died years ago and had given his bones back to his father and his flesh back to his mother, in an act that no one in the household had ever spoken of since. Li Jing was at his desk when the captain came in. He was looking at a map of the western border. He did not look up when the captain bowed. "General," the captain said, "there is news. There is always news. News of your son." Li Jing's hand, which had been moving across the map, stopped. It rested there. It did not tremble. Li Jing did not allow himself to tremble. "Which son?" he said. It was not a question. It was a wall. The captain swallowed. "The 3rd one, General. Nezha. He is They say he has returned. Reborn. A lotus body. He's on Jianyuan Mountain. He's whole. They say he is more powerful than before. Li Jing did not look up. He did not move. He sat very still at his desk, his hand on the map, his face turned toward the western border. And inside him, something very old and very deep shifted. Grief that had calcified into something harder. Shame that had grown a shell over itself. Anger at what? At the boy for dying. At himself for failing to prevent it. At the gods for permitting it. At his own grief for never letting him go. All of these things at once. None of them clearly. Only the hard shell over them all. He is not my son, Li Jing said. The captain blinked. General? My son died. My son returned his body to me and to his mother. Whatever this is, this creature, this lotus thing, it is not my son. It is a demon wearing his face. General, the people are saying. The people will say what I tell them to say. Li Jing's voice was level. It was perfectly level. It was the level voice of a man holding something terrible down beneath the surface of himself with both hands. He is a demon, an abomination. I will not receive him. If he comes to Chentang Pass, the gates will be closed. The captain bowed. He did not argue. He had served Li Jing long enough to know when not to argue. He left. Li Jing sat at his desk a while longer. He looked at the map. He did not see it. He saw instead a small boy running through a courtyard, laughing, a wooden sword in his hand. He saw the same small boy, older, defiant, brilliant, troublesome. He saw the same boy on his knees, in the snow, holding a knife. He closed his eyes. He did not cry. He had not cried in years. He had forgotten how. He only sat there, in the still room, with the shell hard around his heart. And he refused to let himself hope. Nezha learned of his father's words on a quiet afternoon, on the slope below the cave, where he had been practicing with the spear. He had been at it for hours. He was not tired. The lotus body, he was learning, did not tire the way the old body had tired. But he had reached that pleasant, clear-minded place that comes after long practice, when the body has stopped asking questions, and the spear feels like an extension of the hand. He set the spear down. He sat on a flat rock. He looked out across the valley. A crane was coming up the slope. It was a white crane with very long legs, the kind of crane that immortals send when they have a message to send. It landed lightly on the path. It folded its wings. It looked at Nezha with the calm, bright eye of something that has flown a long way. It bowed. It spoke. Its voice was small and clear. "Young master," it said, "there is news from below." "Tell me," Nezha said. The crane told him. It did not soften the words. Cranes are not in the business of softening words. It told him that the captain of the guard at Chentang Pass had reported his return, and that General Li Jing had refused to receive him, and that General Li Jing had declared him a demon, an abomination, no son of his. The crane finished speaking. It waited. Nezha sat very still on the rock. The wind moved in the pines above him. A small lizard ran across the stone near his foot and disappeared into a crack. Below, in the valley, the river caught a thread of sunlight and flashed it back up the mountain. He thought he had expected this. He thought, in the calm, clear place behind his eyes, that he had expected exactly this But somewhere lower down, in a place he had not yet learned to map in this new body, something hurt. It was not the hurt he had been bracing for. He had been bracing for the hurt of his father's anger. And that was there. Yes, that was part of it. But the deeper hurt, the one that surprised him, the one that took his breath, was something else. It was the hurt of knowing that his father could not see him. Could not. Not would not. Could not. Li Jing had built over all these years of grief a wall so high and so thick that even a son returning from death could not be seen through it. The wall had become the seeing. The wall had become the father. Nezha looked down at his own hands, the small, perfect, lotus-light hands. They were trembling slightly. He had not asked them to. "Thank you," he said to the crane. His voice was steady. "You may go." The crane bowed again. It unfolded its great white wings. It lifted off the path and rose, slow and effortless, into the bright blue afternoon. Nezha watched it go. When it was a small white speck against the sky, and then no speck at all, he lowered his eyes. He sat on the rock for a long time. He did not cry. He was not sure in this new body whether he still could. But he sat with the hurt, and he turned it over carefully in his hands, the way one might turn over a strange stone, examining it from all sides. "This is the first pain," he thought. "This is the first real pain of my new life." It was not the pain of dying. He had already done that. It was not the pain of returning. He'd already done that too. It was the pain of loving someone who had decided, in the deep, wounded silence of his own heart, that you could not be loved back. Behind him, up the slope, Taiyi Zhenren was watching from the cave mouth. He had been watching the whole time. He did not come down. He understood that there are some pains a teacher cannot teach away. After a long while, Nezha stood up. He picked up the spear. He looked down the long, winding road that led, in the end, to Chentang Pass. "All right," he said quietly, to no one in particular. "All right. Then I will go to him myself." Nezha came down the mountain alone. He could have flown. The windfire wheels would have carried him to Chentang Pass in a single afternoon, scorching the air, leaving a trail of red light across the sky. But he did not want to come like that. He wanted to come the slow way, the way one approaches a thing one is afraid of approaching, the way one walks toward an old door one used to know. So he walked. He walked through the foothills. He walked through the lower valleys, where farmers stopped in their fields to stare, then bowed, then ran to tell their neighbors. He walked through small towns, where children followed him at a respectful distance, whispering. He did not speak to them. He smiled sometimes. He kept walking. The windfire wheels turned slowly beneath his feet, just a hand's breadth off the road, the flames low and quiet. The red silk trailed behind him. The universe ring rested at his hip. The fire-tipped spear lay across his shoulder. By the time he reached Chentang Pass, 3 days had passed, and word had gone before him like wind through dry grass. The walls of Chentang Pass rose up before him in the late afternoon. Grey stone, very high, very old. Soldiers lined the parapets. Their armor caught the late sun. They did not move. They were watching. The great gates were closed. Nezha stopped 100 paces from the gates. He stood there for a long moment, looking up. "Father," he called. He did not shout. His voice was clear, and it carried. "I have come home. Open the gate." There was a long silence. Then a figure appeared on the wall above the gate. Armored, helmeted, very still. Li Jing. Even at this distance, Nezha knew him. He had carried the shape of his father in his memory through death and rebirth, and there was no other shape like it in the world. Li Jing did not speak. He raised one hand. In that hand was the Demon-Conquering Pagoda, the Linglong Pagoda, a small golden tower, no taller than a man's forearm, its many tiers etched with seals and characters of binding. It glowed softly in his grip. It had been given to him by a higher power for the express purpose of this moment, though neither of them yet knew it. He lifted it. He pointed it at his son. A light came from the pagoda. A clean white light, very bright, very cold. It surged down the wall and across the open ground toward Nezha, like a wave of pure command. "Stop. Be still. Be bound." Nezha lifted his spear. He did not want to. He did not want this. But the light was coming, and his body, his lotus body, the body that had been built and trained for exactly this, moved before his mind could refuse it. The spear came up. The red silk uncoiled from his wrists and snapped out around him like a long ribbon of fire. The universe ring lifted from his hip and began to spin, slowly at first, then faster, a wheel of gold. The white light of the pagoda met the red of the silk and the gold of the ring, and the air between father and son was suddenly full of slow, bright fire. It was not a battle the way battles are usually described. It was slow. It was almost ceremonial. Father and son moved through it as though each gesture cost something. And it did. Li Jing did not shout commands. Nezha did not cry challenges. They fought in silence, the slow, mythic silence of two people who do not want to be fighting and do not know how to stop. The pagoda flared again. The silk lashed. The ring spun. The ground beneath them was scorched in slow, soft circles. High up on a far ridge, half hidden by pine, Taiyi Zhenren stood and watched. He had come. He had not announced himself. He stood with his hands folded in his sleeves, his face still, his eyes very sad. A young attendant beside him stirred. "Master, will you not stop this?" "No," Taiyi Zhenren said quietly. "Not yet. But there are wounds," the master said, "that cannot be healed by someone else stepping between them. They have to meet first. They have to try and fail to speak. Only then will there be a place where I can stand." The attendant said nothing. Below, the slow, bright fire continued. Father and son, fighting because they did not know what else to do with so much love and so much grief held in the same body. The sun began very slowly to set. They fought as the sun went down. It was not a fight with names for its moves. There were no thunderous declarations, no skyward leaps, no final blows. There were only two figures separated by a small distance of scorched earth, and between them the slow exchange of force that was less like combat and more like a long, terrible conversation in a language neither of them knew well. The pagoda's light came down again. It was the light of authority, of fatherhood, of the right to command. "I am your father. Be bound. Be still. Return to obedience." The red silk rose up to meet it. It was not defiance, not exactly. It was something else. I am your son. Look at me. I'm here. The light pressed forward. The silk pressed back. They met in the middle of the air and held there, trembling. Nezha's feet on the windfire wheels slid back a half step in the dust. He set his jaw. He pressed forward again. On the wall, Li Jing did not move. His face was hidden by the helmet. His hand on the pagoda did not waver. The universe ring spun out from Nezha's hand. It did not fly at his father. It flew in a long, slow arc around the open ground, a circle of gold drawn between them, as though to say, Here is the space between us. Look at it. Look how small it is. Li Jing did not look, or he looked and could not see. The pagoda flared again. The flare struck the ring. The ring shuddered and came back to Nezha's hand, ringing softly like a struck bell. Nezha's small fingers closed around it. He did not throw it again. He took a step forward instead. "Father," he called up. His voice was not angry. It was tired and very young. "Father, it's me." The pagoda flared. The light came down. He raised the silk again, and the silk caught it, and the silk held. He took another step forward. "It's me. I came back." The light again. The silk again. Another step. He was halfway across the scorched ground now. The flaming wheels under his feet were quiet, almost dim, as though they too had grown tired of this. The spear hung at his side, unused. He had never lifted it against his father. He had not been going to. He had only been holding it because he had not known what else to do with his hands. "Father, please." Up on the wall, something inside Li Jing's chest cracked, very quietly, in a place no one could see. He did not let it show. He could not let it show. If it showed, the wall came down, and the wall was the only thing holding him upright. He lifted the pagoda again. The light came down again. This time it was weaker. This time it wavered. Nezha caught it on the silk. He held it. He did not push back. For a long moment they stood like that, the father high on the wall, the son small on the ground, the trembling line of light between them, like a thread about to break. The sun touched the horizon. The red light of evening washed across the walls of Chentang Pass, and across the scorched ground, and across the small boy, and the still figure above. And for a moment everything was bathed in the same soft red, the same color, the same warmth, the same blood. Father and son, made in that one moment of light, of the same color. Up on the ridge, Taiyi Zhenren watched the light touch them. He watched them held there in the red of the evening. He saw the way Li Jing's hand trembled, only slightly, only for a moment, on the pagoda. "Now," he said softly to himself, "now there is a place I can stand." He stepped off the ridge. He did not fly with any flourish. He simply walked, the way a man walks down a familiar slope at the end of a long day. Pine needles did not stir under his sandals. The air parted gently around him. By the time he reached the scorched ground below the wall, the last of the sun was sliding away, and the trembling thread of light between father and son was very thin. He stepped between them. He did not raise a hand. He did not call out. He simply stood there, in the middle of the small distance, with the dying light behind him, and the rising shadow ahead. The pagoda's light flickered and stopped. The red silk lowered and stilled. Nezha let out a breath he had not known he was holding. Li Jing, on the wall, did not move. In the new silence, Taiyi Zhenren looked up at the father, and then at the son, and waited until both of them were looking back. Then, very quietly, he began to speak. Taiyi Zhenren did not raise his voice. He did not need to. The whole pass had gone quiet around him, the way a forest goes quiet when a deer comes to the river. The soldiers on the wall did not breathe. The wind itself seemed to be listening. He looked up at Li Jing. "General," he said. His voice was gentle. It was not the voice of a master rebuking a student. It was the voice of an old man speaking to another old man, plainly, on a small matter of truth. "Will you hear me a moment?" Li Jing did not answer. He did not lower the pagoda, but he did not raise it either. He stood very still on the wall. Taiyi Zhenren took that as permission. "Some years ago," he said, "your son took a knife in the snow. You remember the day?" Li Jing said nothing. The pagoda in his hand did not move. "He took the knife," Taiyi Zhenren said, "and he gave back the flesh his mother had given him, and he gave back the bones his father had given him. He did this so that no harm would come to you, so that no army would arrive at your gates, so that your house would stand. He gave back everything that belonged to you. He kept nothing of yours for himself." A small breath of wind moved across the scorched ground. The red silk at Nezha's wrists stirred and was still. "He owed you nothing after that?" Taiyi Zhenren said. "Nothing. The debt of birth was paid. The accounts were closed. He could have gone after, anywhere he chose. He could have refused this body when I offered it. He could have remained a soul on the wind, free of all obligation. He could have forgotten you, General. He had every right to." Up on the wall, very slowly, Li Jing's hand on the pagoda began to tremble. He did not lower it, but it trembled. "He chose to come back," Taiyi Zhenren said. He let those words sit a moment in the quiet air. "He chose to come back, knowing what you might say, knowing what you might do, knowing you might raise that very pagoda against him and call him a demon at your own gate. He came anyway. Do you understand why?" He waited. Li Jing did not answer. He could not. "He came because he still wants to be your son." Taiyi Zhenren's voice was very quiet now. It was almost tender. "That is all. That is the whole of it. He came back to a father who owed him no welcome, because he could not bear the thought of not being your son anymore. He stood at your gate and called you father, and you closed the gate. He stepped onto your ground and asked to be seen, and you raised that tower against him. And still, he has not raised his spear. Look at him, General. Look down. The spear is at his side. He has not lifted it. Not once. A long, long silence. "Is that nothing?" Taiyi Zhenren asked. He did not say it harshly. He said it like a man asking a question he already knew the answer to. "Is that the work of a demon? An abomination? Is the worst thing your son has done in his short and broken life? Is it that he loved you so much, he came back from the dead to be your son again?" Li Jing did not move. But high on the wall, in the dying light, something on his face changed. It was not a dramatic change. It was the smallest possible change. The kind of change that happens behind a man's eyes, when a wall, after standing for years, finally remembers that it is only made of stones, and that stones can be set down. Below, on the scorched ground, Nezha had not spoken since Taiyi Zhenren had begun. He stood very still, the red silk drifting around him, his small face turned upward. He did not look angry. He did not look triumphant. He looked more than anything, very young, and very tired, and very hopeful, in the careful, guarded way of someone who has been hurt, and is afraid to hope again. He waited. He had waited a long time already. He could wait longer. Taiyi Zhenren did not speak again. He had said what was his to say. The rest was not his to say. He stepped back very gently, half a pace, and lowered his eyes, not to the ground, but in the small, ancient gesture of a man giving space, making room, withdrawing so that something else might happen in the space where he had been. On the wall, Li Jing closed his eyes. He stood there a long moment with his eyes closed, the pagoda in his hand, the helmet hiding the rest of his face. No one on the parapets dared move. The sun finished its descent. The first stars came out, very small, very pale, over the pass. When he opened his eyes again, he did not speak. He did not say anything to Taiyi Zhenren, or to the soldiers, or to the small boy standing on the scorched ground below. He lowered the pagoda. He did not throw it down. He did not drop it. He lowered it slowly, deliberately, as a man lowers something heavy that he has been holding for too long, and he set it on the stone of the parapet beside him. He took one step, then another. He walked slowly to the head of the stairs that led down from the wall to the ground, and he began to come down. The stairs from the parapet down to the ground inside the gate were not many, perhaps 30 steps, perhaps less. But Li Jing took them slowly, and to those watching it, felt like a journey of many miles. His armor creaked softly with each step. His helmet was still on. His face was still hidden. But his right hand, the hand that had held the pagoda, hung empty at his side. And that empty hand was somehow the most visible thing about him as he came down. At the foot of the stairs he paused. He stood there a moment. Then, almost absently, he reached up and took off the helmet. His face, beneath, was older than it had been 3 days ago. It was older than it had been 3 years ago. The grief that he had been carrying around like a stone in his chest had aged him in places he had not known could age. His hair at the temples was more grey than he had realized. His eyes were tired. His mouth was a tired line. He looked at the helmet in his hand. He looked at it as if he did not know what to do with it. After a moment, he set it down on the bottom step. Then he walked, on foot, toward the gate. Inside the gate, a soldier stood at the great wooden bar that held the doors shut. He looked at his general. He did not know what to do. Li Jing met his eyes. He nodded just once. The soldier swallowed. He set his hands on the bar. He lifted it. The great doors of Chentang Pass, the doors that had been closed against a boy on flaming wheels, began very slowly to open. Outside, on the scorched ground, Nezha watched the doors open. He did not move. He had been very still for a long time now. He felt that if he moved, he might shatter. Not his body, which was made of lotus and light and could not shatter, but something inside him, something small and tender that had been waiting to see if the doors would open. The doors opened all the way. Li Jing stepped out through them. He stopped a few paces beyond the threshold. He stood there in the dusk, in his armor, with his hair loose around his tired face, and he looked at his son. His son looked back. Neither of them spoke. There was so much to say that none of it could be said. There was nothing to say at all that mattered. They simply stood and looked across a small distance of scorched ground in the blue last light of evening, with the first stars over them. And they let the looking be what the words could not be. Behind Li Jing, the soldiers on the wall had all turned very slowly to watch. They did not understand entirely what they were watching. They only knew that something rare was happening, and that they would tell their grandchildren about it. Behind Nezha, very far away on the ridge, though by now he had come down too, Taiyi Zhenren stood in the gathering shadow and watched, and his face was peaceful, and his hands were folded in his sleeves. The looking went on for a long time. At last, Li Jing took a breath. It was a shaky breath. It was the breath of a man who had been holding his breath for a long time without knowing he was holding it. He let it out slowly. He did not move closer. He did not open his arms. He could not yet. He was still made of all the years of his grief, and the grief did not unmake itself in a single evening. It only loosened, the way a tight knot loosens when one strand is pulled gently. Not undone, but ready to be undone in time. But he had come out through the gate. He had taken off the helmet. He had set down the pagoda. He had walked in the open across his own threshold to where his son could see him. It was a beginning. It was, perhaps, the only beginning he had in him to give. Nezha understood. He did not push for more. He stood very still on the threshold, the worn stone cool beneath the soles of his windfire wheels, which he had let cool to embers out of some instinct he did not name. He did not cross. He did not lean. He simply was there, present, a small red shape in a doorway that had once been closed to him forever. Li Jing did not turn his head. He looked instead at the paper on his desk, at the brush that had gone dry in his hand. His shoulders, which Nezha had only ever known as armored, seemed thinner beneath his sleeping robe. An older man, a tired man, a man who had carried something heavy for a long time and had only just set it down. "You look well," Li Jing said. The words were quiet. They were small. They were the sort of words a man might say to a neighbor he had not seen in some seasons, the sort of words that meant nothing and everything at once. They were not an apology. They were not a welcome. They were a door left slightly ajar. Nezha considered the floor between them. He considered the years. "You too, father," he said. That was all. Li Jing's hand tightened briefly around the dry brush. He did not look up. Nezha did not step forward. Neither of them spoke again. Outside, somewhere in the courtyard, a single cricket began its small night song, and a breeze moved through the bamboo with the soft sound of paper being turned. After a long while, Nezha bowed. Not low, not formal, just a small inclination of his head, and stepped back from the threshold. He did not close the door behind him. He left it as he had found it, slightly open, the lamplight spilling out in a thin gold line across the stones. The courtyard received him gently. The night sky above Chentang Pass was clear, and the stars hung close, as stars do in old places, where heaven has long memory. Nezha tilted his face up to them. The red ribbon at his wrist lifted in the breeze, soft as a sigh, and the universe ring at his side caught a sliver of moonlight and held it. Something had begun. He could not yet have said what, only that the long winter of his own heart had, in that small exchange of two small sentences, felt the first thaw. It would be slow. It would take many mornings, but it had begun. He walked once around the courtyard, slowly, the way a child walks when he is reluctant to go inside and end the day. He passed the old plum tree, bare in this season. He passed the stone basin where rainwater pooled and reflected the moon back in pieces. He passed the door of his father's study, still ajar, the lamp still burning. He did not look in. In his own room, he lay down on the narrow bed and folded his hands across his small chest. The lotus body did not need sleep, not truly. But tonight, for the first time in a long time, he closed his eyes and let himself drift. And the drifting was not loneliness, but something gentler, the floating of a small boat on a still pond. The kind of quiet that comes after a long-held breath is finally released. Far away, in his study, Li Jing sat for a long time before his dry brush. Eventually, very carefully, he dipped it in ink. He did not write anything. He only held it, the way a man holds a thing he is not yet ready to use, but is no longer afraid to touch. The lamp burned low. The cricket sang on. The stars wheeled their slow wheel above Chentang Pass, and the first beginning, fragile as a moth's wing, settled over the house and was not disturbed. The days that followed had no name for what was happening in them. There was no ceremony, no announcement, no bowing in the great hall. There was only the slow, patient work of two people learning to occupy the same air. Nezha woke early, as he always had. The lotus body did not tire in the way mortal bodies tired, and dawn pleased him. The grey hush before colour returned to the world, the moment when the courtyard stones still held the cool of the night. He would go out into the wide practice yard behind the house, where the packed earth was old and smooth from generations of soldiers' feet. And there he would practice. He spun the universe ring along his arm until it was a circle of gold light. He threw the heaven-earth sash, which uncoiled red and bright as a tongue of flame, and called it back. He stepped onto the windfire wheels and let them lift him a hand's breadth above the ground. Then 2, then 10, until he could pivot in the air as easily as a fish pivots in water. He worked through forms his master Taiyi had taught him, forms older than the dynasties, the slow-turning shapes that looked like dance and were not. He did not, at first, notice that he was being watched. But on the third morning, he caught it, the smallest flicker at the upper window of his father's study, a figure standing well back from the lattice, half in shadow, watching. Nezha did not turn his head. He continued his form. He let the ribbon trail in a long arc behind him and brought it back across his wrist with a small practiced flick. He did not perform. He did not slow down for the watcher to see better. He simply continued, as if he had not noticed at all. When he came inside that morning, there was a small clay pot of tea on the stone bench outside his room. It was still warm. No one was nearby. No note. Only the tea. He sat on the bench and drank it slowly. It was a good tea, bitter at the start, sweet at the finish, the kind a man drank when he wished to think clearly. Nezha did not know that his father drank this tea. He knew it now. The next morning, before dawn, Nezha rose and went quietly to the door of his father's study. The lamp inside was unlit. He lit it with a small breath of inner fire, set the wick burning soft and low, and walked away. He did not look back to see if anyone stirred. So it went, tea appearing, a lamp lit before the other woke. a door propped open a finger's width to let the cool air through. Once, a clean cloth folded beside the basin where Nezha washed his face after practice, when there had not been one the day before. Once, a small dish of candied lotus seeds left near the practice yard, where any passing child might find them. They did not speak of these things. They did not speak much at all. At meals, when they took them together in the side hall, the conversation was brief and concerned only the weather, the state of the garrison, the price of grain. Madame Yin watched them both with the careful, quiet pleasure of a woman who knows not to disturb a thing that is still settling. But the gap was narrowing, not by speeches, not by tears, by shared mornings. By the 7th day, Nezha found his father waiting at the edge of the practice yard, hands folded into his sleeves. Li Jing did not say anything. He only watched, openly now, no longer hidden behind a lattice. Nezha bowed once, small, and went on with his forms. The windfire wheels turned. The ribbon arced. The universe ring sang in the morning air. Li Jing watched until the sun cleared the wall. Then, without a word, he turned and walked back into the house. But before he went, his hand lifted briefly, in a gesture so small it might have been the wind. A wave, perhaps, or only a man brushing dust from his sleeve. Nezha pretended not to see. But he smiled, small to himself, as the wheels turned. The summons came on a morning of low cloud, when the air smelled of approaching rain, and the banners on the watchtowers hung heavy and still. A messenger rode in from the west, his horse lathered, his sleeves dusted with the pale yellow soil of the long road from Mount Kunlun. Jiang Zia, Prime Minister of the rising house of Zhou, called for all the divine soldiers. The hour of King Zhou of Shang was at hand. The last campaign would be the Long March to Zhaoge, the capital of the failing dynasty, and the gathered forces of heaven would walk among the mortal armies as their hidden strength. Li Jing read the order standing in the great hall, his armor not yet on, but already laid out behind him on the long bench, plate by plate, like a body waiting to be inhabited. Nezha stood at the foot of the dais. He had been there since the messenger came. He had not been called for exactly, but he had come. Li Jing finished reading. He folded the paper. He looked up. "You will ride out with me," he said. It was not a question. It was not a command either. It was the simple statement of a thing that had become true at some point in the last weeks, without either of them naming it. "Yes, Father," Nezha said. That was all the conversation that was needed. They prepared in the quiet way of soldiers who have prepared many times before. Li Jing's armor was the dark green of jade and old bronze, scaled like a great fish. The 7-story pagoda carried at his hip in a form small enough for travel. He took up his halberd, tested its balance, set it across his back. He drew on his helmet last, the long horsehair plume falling between his shoulders. Nezha needed no armor. The lotus body was its own armor, and the red doo-doo bib at his chest and the long red ribbon at his wrists were brighter than any banner. He stepped onto the windfire wheels, and they kindled beneath him, 2 small suns at his heels. The universe ring at his side hummed, awake, hungry for the long road. Madame Yin came out into the courtyard to see them go. She did not weep. She had wept the first time, many years ago, when Li Jing had first ridden to war, and she had decided then that she would never weep at her leaving again. She placed one hand on her husband's forearm. She placed the other, briefly, on the top of Nezha's small head, between the two top knots, where she had once cupped a newborn skull, warm as a sun-warmed peach. She let her hand rest there for the length of one slow breath. Then she stepped back. "Come home," she said, to both of them, to either of them. "We will," Li Jing said. They rode out together through the great gate of Chentang Pass. The garrison soldiers lined the road on either side, fists to chests, silent. The banners snapped overhead as a wind came up from the west, smelling of distant rain and farther thunder. Li Jing rode at the head on a tall black horse with a white blaze. Nezha rode beside him on his wheels of flame. A head shorter, a small red flicker against the great green armored shape of his father. They did not look at each other. They did not need to. A mile out from the pass, the road turned, and the watchtower fell behind them. And ahead the road opened into the long western plain that ran all the way to the war. Li Jing glanced down, only once, only briefly. Nezha was looking ahead, his small face calm, his ribbon trailing behind him in a long, bright line that the wind kept lifting up like a wing. Something in Li Jing's chest, very small, very quiet, said, "My son." He did not say it aloud. He did not need to. It was simply true. They rode on together into the gathering weather, and somewhere far ahead, beyond the curve of the earth, the great drums of the final campaign had already begun to beat. The battle that ended the Shang came not as a single clash, but as a long unfolding, slow and dreamlike, the way a long storm unfolds across a wide valley. The chronicles would later say it lasted 7 days. To those who fought in it, it felt both longer and shorter, a single endless afternoon, a single drawn breath. The plains before Zhaoge were broad and golden with autumn grass. The mortal armies of the rising Zhou moved across them in their disciplined columns, banners of red and white snapping. Above and within them moved the hidden host, the divine soldiers, the immortals of Kunlun, the great sages with their gourds and swords, and folded fans of wind. Jiang Xia rode at the center, on his strange four-knot-like beast, his beard white as river foam, his eyes very calm. The defenders came out to meet them. The dark sages who had cast their lots with the failing king came with them, black-robed, their faces hidden, their banners stitched with old and bitter sigils. The sky above the plain darkened though it was midday. Thunder spoke once, low and long, from a place that was not weather. Then the divine fire began. Nezha moved through the battle as a small bright thing in a great dim sea. He had grown into his power across all his years of trial. And now, at last, he did not hold any of it back. The universe ring sang loose from his hand, and circled and returned, a hoop of pure gold light that passed through dark armor as a needle passes through cloth. The heaven-earth sash uncoiled red across the air and bound what it touched, immortal and mortal alike, gently or terribly as he chose. The wind fire. Wheels carried him above the chaos in long arcs, dipping and rising, his small red form flickering between banners, like a koi between lotus stems. He did not laugh in this fighting. He did not shout. He fought with a quiet that surprised even himself. the quiet of a thing that has at last become what it was always meant to become. Li Jing fought near him, always near him, the great green armored shape moving with the inevitability of a tide. The pagoda at his hip blazed when needed, throwing its small, impossible light. The dark sages who came at him fell back before that light. Father and son did not coordinate in any planned way, and yet they coordinated perfectly, the way two notes of a chord do not plan to belong to each other, but do. The hours slid by like silk drawn through a ring. At last, on the 7th day, the great gate of Zhaoge broke. The fire that took the high terrace of King Zhou could be seen from 100 li away. The dark sages were scattered or sealed. The drums fell silent one by one along the great wall, until there was only the wind in the grass and the slow popping of timber burning a long way off. The world had turned its corner. Nezha came down from the air slowly. The windfire wheels cooled beneath him. He stepped onto the trampled grass and stood very still, listening to the silence of a world that had just ended one age and begun another. The universe ring returned to his side, warm as a sleeping animal. The ribbon settled around his wrists. Across the field, perhaps 100 paces away, Li Jing stood among the broken standards, his helmet under his arm, his hair come loose. He was looking at Nezha. He had been looking for some time. Their eyes met across the long stretch of ended battle. Smoke moved between them in slow curtains. Somewhere a horse whickered, gentle, lost. And in that long look, the last small knot inside Li Jing's chest, the one he had been carrying since the day a strange flesh ball had been born in his house, since the day a small son had unmade his own body on a tower stair, since every year of grief and anger and unspoken love, that knot at last came undone. He did not smile. He only let out a breath, a long one, as if he had been holding it for many years and had only just remembered that he could let it go. Nezha, across the field, inclined his head, very small. His father inclined his, in return, just as small. It was enough. The wind moved through the autumn grass. The age of Shang was over. And on the broken plain before Zhaoge, a father and a son stood at last in the same world, breathing the same quiet air. The ceremony of Investiture was held when all the fighting was done, and the long count of the fallen was complete. Jiang Zia, by the authority of heaven, stood upon the high terrace at Mount Qi with the Investiture scroll unrolled before him, and one by one he called the names of those who had served, the living and the dead, the immortal and the mortal who would become immortal, and gave to each a place in the order of heaven. The terrace was open to the sky. Cloud moved across it in slow white pillars, and from the cloud came the sound of distant bells, not struck by any hand, but ringing of themselves, as bells do at the hinges of an age. The sages of Kunlun stood in long ranks in their robes of many colors. The new divine officers stood waiting, their faces calm as still pools. When Nezha's name was called, he stepped forward onto the terrace, and the cloud parted softly around his small bare feet. He did not need the windfire wheels here. He walked simply, as a child walks toward a beloved teacher. Jiang Zia looked down at him with eyes that had seen many such moments and were still somehow moved. He read the title from the scroll: Marshal of the Central Altar, Zhongtan Yuan Shuai, Guardian of the Central Altar, Protector of Children, one of the great deities of the mortal world below. The words settled into the air the way snow settles on still water, softly, completely, with no sound. Nezha bowed. He felt the title settle into him the way a name settles into a newborn. Strange at first, and then immediately and forever his own. The lotus body brightened, faintly, with an inner light that was not fire and not flame, but the simple recognition of a thing taking its true shape. He rose. Across the terrace, in the ranks of those already named, Li Jing stood watching. He had been given his own title, pagoda-bearing heavenly king, Totali, guardian of the four quarters, and the pagoda at his hip would be his forever now. A small, bright burden and a small, bright gift. He stood very straight. His eyes did not leave his son. When Nezha looked over, Li Jing did not look away. He only nodded once, the same small nod from the battlefield. The same small nod that meant, yes, you, always. Nezha nodded back, and then it was done. The ceremony moved on, name after name, and the new heaven assembled itself in the slow, careful way of all true things. When at last the scroll was furled, and the bells in the cloud went quiet, the new gods took up their stations, each to the place that was now theirs to keep. Nezha took his place at the central altar. From there he could see, as gods can see, every corner of the mortal world below. He could see the great rivers and the small streams. He could see the fields where farmers bent to their rice. He could see the high passes where snow never melted, and the warm coasts where the tide came in slow. He could see Chentang pass, and the courtyard where the plum tree stood, and the window where his mother sometimes paused in her sewing to look out at the sky. He could see, too, far in the south, the lotus pool where Taiyi had once knelt, and made him a new body out of root and petal. The pool was still now. The lotuses bloomed and faded and bloomed again in the long, quiet seasons, and no one disturbed them. He could see the mountain cave where his master had once taught him forms in the grey dawn. The cave was empty now. The wind moved through it gently, as wind moves through any old, loved place, and it carried with it, if you listened very carefully, on certain summer nights, when the air was still and the cicadas had paused their singing, the faint, far echo of a boy's laughter, a high, bright, unbothered laugh, a laugh that had no fear in it, and no sorrow, and no anger, only the simple joy of being. He was always there. He had never quite left. And in the world below, mothers told their children of Nezha, the small god who watched over them. They left small offerings, candied lotus seed, a red ribbon, a paper wheel, and the children slept easier for knowing he was near. Above, on his cloud, the marshal of the central altar sat with his universe ring beside him, and his ribbon stirring softly in some breeze that came from nowhere. He looked down on the world he was now sworn to protect, and his small face was calm. The long story had found its quiet. The lotus had bloomed, and somewhere, far below, a child was already drifting toward sleep, and the small god was already watching over the dream. Good night.
Demon verschließenheit. Ja, I